After scaling sales teams to over $6 million in cash collected each and every single month, and personally coaching reps to hit over 70% close rate for over a year straight, I've come to realize that truly elite closers simply do not face objections at the same level as average closers. Here are the 3 hard facts I've learned from my over 12-year career in sales. 80% of sellers are still not equipped to handle objections well consistently. 65% of sellers are actually causing the objections that are occurring on their own sales calls, and how most objection handling sales training happens gets it 100% backward. This training will fix all 3 problems. So in this training, I'm going to show you, number 1, what you're doing to trigger these objections. Number 2, how you can stop doing that and also defeat all objections before they happen. And no, this isn't just to pre-handle objections using discovery questions. And number 3 is if you still fail at number 1 and number 2, stick around till the end of this video because we're going to cover the correct way to handle every single objection you could ever encounter. This will blow your mind because it's universally applicable no matter what they throw at you. And this is what usually leads to a 50% plus close rate, actually for real. So I'm going to start with a little story to illustrate how I even learned all this. So I noticed over my many years of building multiple sales teams that when a seller on a particular sales team reached truly elite levels, and I'm talking about consistently closing above 40% for months, even on cold leads, the rest of the team wants to review their sales calls. And well, they should, right? What's the secret sauce? What are the crazy talk tracks? What's the crazy Jedi mind tricks this person is doing, right? And when I played these calls for the rest of the team, usually what would occur is a simple, straightforward sale with no objections. And the rest of the team would say, yeah, that was a lay down, no objections. I want to hear them overcome objections. And then I, or you, as a sales leader have a problem because usually if you have an elite closer, it's very rare that you find a call recorded with them where they face even a single objection. Now, why would this be? Well, it led me naturally to the conclusion that elite closers don't actually face the same number of objections as non-elite closers. So it must be that elite closers are doing something or not doing something that is causing a different result. It turns out this is exactly what's happening. The root cause of objections is most of the time the salesperson themselves. Objections happen usually because of the sales script or the sales SOP. The script, the sales process, the talk tracks, the delivery. And it took me several years to figure this out, but I finally figured out the difference. If we think about it for a second, we'll realize that all social behavior is actually pretty scripted. If I meet you in the street and I say, hey, what's up? You're going to say, oh, hey, not much. How are you? Or if I say, hey, how are you? You're going to say, I'm good. How are you? So those would be trigger phrases that trigger automatic responses, leading us to the conclusion that if we think about it in our daily lives, most of social interaction is fairly formulaic and often on kind of a scripted pattern. So these are very small and simple examples of how humans use conversational templates to navigate everyday interactions on autopilot. And guess what? Business interactions are, in fact, autopilot interactions just the same. So the thing is, when most salespeople get on a sales call or they go to a client's office and meet them in person, or they're at a conference and they open up a sales conversation, mostly they're triggering the wrong template. Remember, our brains are lazy and they want 99% of our behavior to be on autopilot because generating novel behavior requires calories, and we would rather be parsimonious with our calories and allow them to fuel our muscles for our sweet gains, or something like that. So what most people are doing wrong is they're triggering the prospect's brain to go into this is a sales call mode. And then, of course, what's that going to trigger them to do? Well, it's going to trigger them to say, I don't want any sales pressure, man. I'm not making a decision on this call. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to talk to the spouse. So when you trigger that conversational template, increasingly in 2026, people are getting on sales calls and wanting to defray the pressure and forestall any kind of sales process from happening at all. And some of them are even getting on calls and saying, hey, regardless of what you say today, man, I'm not buying today. And that's because they're so convinced they are on a sales call. They are so afraid they're going to be closed in one call, they have to put up the defenses before the salesperson even opens his mouth. So in order to break out of the template, what do you have to do? Well, you have to convince them that this is not a sales call. This is what I call the anti-sales call template. You can call this a pattern interrupt or a script break, but all it really means is you show up to a sales call in a way that no salesperson would. You exhibit distinctly unsalesmanlike behavior from minute one. This is how you avoid triggering that template. So the most successful and effective template that I've found here in 2026, and also this has worked going back to 2014, so it's probably going to continue working in the future, is what I call a procedural or the order-taking call. You take what used to be a highly emotional, fraught sales call and you turn it into a procedural, bureaucratic, almost order-taking type of feel. And in this way, it lowers the prospect's potential fear of being sold or Jedi mind tricked or pressured, sales pressured, and it turns it into more of a bureaucratic review call, just like they're going to the DMB. Now, you might be asking yourself, how on earth can I implement this in my own sales calls? True, I have a script or I have a process, but I kind of wing it every time. I don't know how to make it sound more procedural and less salesy, to which I have a solution. I want to invite you to our school community. There's the first link in the description. That's going to help break down your specific script, and I can help you rework it in your own way. I usually charge $2.99 a month, but I'm still giving away a few free spots for now, so check the link in the description and see if we still have a few slots open. Now that you understand that, what you really need to do is create a sales call that doesn't feel like a sales call. Is that going to take away all your objections? Well, probably not. There's still going to be the odd objection that comes up now and again. So now, because no system is 100% foolproof, I'm going to show you how to deal with any objection that does crop up, even if you've implemented the system. So here's how you've been trained. Take 100% complete ownership of the objection, make it real, make it a big deal, and try to use logic and or emotion to solve it for the prospect. Here's the flip side. What really works is handing the ownership of the objection back to the prospect to solve for themselves. Watch how these same principles apply on every single possible objection you could get. Prospect: oh, there's no way I would spend that much money. You: well, how would you justify to yourself spending that much money? Prospect: I'm not buying today, man, no matter what you say. Seller: were you thinking of buying today? Prospect: I've really got to run this by my business partner. Seller: you've got to run it by your business partner? And to further that, so when you run it by your business partner, what are you going to tell them exactly? Prospect: I'm just not ready to make a decision. Seller: what other information do you need before you'll be ready to make a decision? I promise, guys, this pattern works for any objection. Take what they handed you, hand it back to them in a slightly different package or even largely the same package, and assume they can solve it. Assume that they are creative, resourceful, and whole. They can and will solve their own objection, and ask them how they're going to solve their objection. This framework works a shockingly high percentage of the time. Now, here's the thing. Some of you will try these tactics and they will fail because you didn't set up the call to allow you to prevent these objections from even happening in the first place. So here's how you do that, how to pre-handle objections to prevent them from ever arising. So shopping around. This objection happens because you haven't walked them through alternatives, the competitors in this space, and you haven't educated them well enough and pre-positioned your offer or solution as superior or distinct in several key ways to what everybody else is doing. People are saying they have to shop around because they're not an educated consumer at the bottom of the funnel. Once they've talked to 2 or 3 other vendors, they're going to be a much more educated consumer. They're going to see the similarities, the differences, and they're often going to be ready to make a decision at that point. You have to help them get to that point even without necessarily having to talk to 2 or 3 other vendors. If you have an intimate knowledge of your space, you know all your vendors by name, and you know all the offers in and out, then you can educate them on the offers they're going to get. And then as soon as they go and get those offers, even if they go and get those offers, they're going to say, hey, you know what? This is exactly what Drew told me this guy would tell me. So Drew was right. I trust Drew. Therefore, I'm going to spend money with Drew. A money objection or a too expensive objection sometimes is an attempt to negotiate, but usually it occurs because you didn't tie down on the budget and you didn't make a logical ROI argument as to why the cost of not investing with you greatly exceeds the cost of your solution. Everything about cost of inaction or the investment in their current problem, that's all geared toward making them understand that the cost of staying as they are now and not getting your solution, or the cost of getting a competitor's solution, far outweighs whatever your money you're asking them for. And when you can establish that logically early in the call or throughout the sales process, you're going to have a lot fewer money objections because they've already agreed to you that actually your particular offer, even if it's more expensive monetarily, packs the most value into the offer. The partner objection or talk to someone else objection really happens when you don't engineer the call to ascertain if there's other decision makers or there's a buying committee and set up the call logically to satisfy all those other decision makers with the information they need before you go ahead and pitch. Oftentimes there's no way to get all the decision makers on the call before you pitch. So what you're going to do is then you're going to go into engineering the post-call sales process, including coaching the sale, coaching the champion how to present your solution to other people, and even providing them with materials they can use, a sort of snow globe sales offer or a business case type asset that you can use, you can give to them to use inside their organization to effectuate that sale. Not now, or we'll revisit later. This always happens, almost always, when you have inadequate agitation of the pain, the cost of delay, or the cost of inaction. Think about it. If you go to the doctor and he says, we need to operate on you right now to save your life, You're not going to say, oh, I think I'll go get 2 or 3 other opinions. Let's wait 2 to 3 weeks. You're not going to do that. Sufficient pain is required to motivate proper immediate action. The problem is most sellers vastly underestimate the amount of pain required to motivate action. They'll hear a prospect say something like, yeah, we're pretty snowed. And they'll be like, okay, I've got it. That's all the pain I need. Pretty snowed. They won't even ask, pretty snowed? What does that mean to you exactly? They won't dig into the actual numbers, the time. They won't dimensionalize the pain. They won't total up what the cost of inaction is or the cost of delay. They won't even think in those terms. So if you don't think in those terms, you have very high shot of getting, hey, we don't have any urgency, we'll get this later. Even if you think in those terms, you have to ask those questions. You have to path out that money, that time. You have to get those dimensions down on paper. You have to bring them to present pain because nothing motivates action like present pain. Imagined future pain does not motivate as much as present pain, and past experience of pain does not motivate as powerfully as present pain. That's what you need to go for every single time if you want to avoid getting the, oh, not now, we'll revisit later type of objection. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the very next one.